In this video, we're going to be talking all about girls. My name is Harpreet Singh and I'm an osteopath by background, and my wife is a doctor of clinical psychology. I've had conversations with her about issues related to sex that aren't really talked about openly in the community, and because they aren't, they end up causing more problems further down the line. Shame, guilt, lots of other issues. So let's get right into it. Now, before we go any further, please do me a favor and smash the thumbs up button. That will help the YouTube algorithm select this video for other people who are trying to find videos on this topic. Now, when we're talking about sex education, there's a couple of things that we need to mention. First of all, this is relevant for you if you're going through any issues where you're starting to feel attracted to the opposite sex, you want to have a girlfriend, you want to be in a relationship, or you're feeling or having feelings toward the opposite sex. So it's appropriate for you, and that can be at any age. That could be at 12, 11, 13. Hopefully it won't be any younger than that, but that's relevant. If you're not in that group, if it's not relevant for you right now, then maybe come across this at a later stage in your life.
A sexual interaction is something where a huge amount of memory is taken from one to the other. So always, not in this society, everywhere else, forever people saw the advantage of keeping that memory to the minimal. If you make that memory very complex, you will see to be at ease will become very difficult after some time. You want to attach to something unless you find some integrity. This is why between 12 and 18, one must do lot of sadhana to strengthen the body so that you don't desperately bind yourself to something or somebody. You must consciously, if you wish to take a partner, it must be a conscious process. If it's a compulsive process, then you will pay the price for it. This is not a question of morality. It is not that this is sin, that is sin. The question is, what is your priority in your life? If your priority is to make this life rise to a higher possibility, then you must be conscious.
Figuring out whether you're ready for sex can be one of the hardest decisions in life. It doesn't matter whether you're someone wanting to have sex for the very first time or someone who's in a new relationship where sex hasn't happened yet. The thought process is pretty much the same. It's a big step and something we should all think pretty carefully about. You need to think about the risks associated with sex. And to be honest, there's a lot of them. We all know about the health and pregnancy risks of sex, and these are very important. But what about the emotional risks? What do you stand to lose? Will your relationship with that person be changed in a way you're not comfortable with? Sex can make us form a strong, compassionate connection with someone. Are you ready for those kinds of emotions? 2. Are you being pressured? You might think that having sex is the right thing to do, but is it really you who wants sex? Or is it the world around you, pressuring you into doing something you're not ready for? Peer pressure is a very real thing, especially when it comes to sex. Young people are under enormous pressure to lose their virginities, and it kind of becomes a competitive thing. Alternatively, even if you're not a virgin, people might still be pressuring you into having sex with someone new. In both situations, we really need to take a step back and figure out what we want and whether we're actually ready for sex.
Social media is going to have a big influence on your state of mind. If you're going on Instagram, if you're going on TikTok, you're going to see images of women, and that's going to make it very difficult for you to try and keep your mind as clear as possible and to channel those emotions, feelings. It's going to bring them all up, and it's going to add fuel to the fire. So every time you are going on social media, every time you're going to an environment where you're around girls and a girl, you may have contact with a girl, or you are attracted to girls who are in that environment and there's a potential for something happening, then it's going to be adding fuel to that fire. So that's something to be mindful of. Someone asked about the different types of sex. Now, this is a valid question, but it's not something that I'm going to be covering in this video. Logically, you might say, well, I need to get married at some point. If I don't date girls, how am I going to know whether it's somebody that I need to get married to? And what I would say is, with me and my wife, the person I ended up marrying, the person who I have fortunately a very blessed and happy marriage with, is somebody that I didn't know before marriage. Somebody introduced us with the intention of us getting married, and we met up on 2 occasions. We liked each other and we said okay, we said yes, and we ended up getting married 6 months later. That's not to say that that's the right way or the only way, but what I'm saying is, just because you haven't dated the person, it doesn't mean you can't be happily married with them. You can be introduced to somebody with the intention to get married. The family can know about it, they can know about where you're going and the types of things you're doing, and you can still get married to that person and be very happy.
You know, Chris, I'm having a great time. You're so cool and down to earth.
I like you too, Taylor. I was scared meeting a celebrity, but you're so nice and normal. I feel totally comfortable around you.
The other question was, is it okay to just be friends with a girl? Now, this is an interesting question because, of course, it is okay, but it's very difficult to just be friends with a girl, particularly if you're attracted to them. And again, that's going to be adding fuel to the fire. It's going to make it very difficult for you to try and stay away from sexual relationships before marriage and try and channel that energy into constructive, positive things if you're putting yourself in an environment or spending time with an individual where there is the potential for that to happen. And it feels great, it feels nice, it feels like you get all of these positive feelings from being around somebody where there's the potential for that to happen. But just because this is all about avoiding short-term pleasure for long-term pleasure and happiness.
He will show you who he is based on what he does. So a man comes in the room to say, sister, you need me to get that?
Right.
I got that. No, put that down. I got that. Grown male walks into the room looking to serve himself first.
A grown male.
A grown male.
It's a
So
difference,
a
guys.
man looks to be of service. A grown male looks to be served.
My take on masturbation is the same as sex outside of marriage, which is that it's going to lead to some of the same issues, the social issues, maybe not to such a big degree, but it's going to impact on your character, on your behavior, temperament, and it's also going to impact on what you're thinking. And we know from science that what you're thinking has an impact on your chemistry, on your hormone release, on lots of different types of things. So it's better for your mental health, for your well-being, to avoid masturbation. And there is actually a movement called NOFAP, and the people who are following that movement, the people who have had prolonged periods of abstinence from masturbation, have found that they have increased concentration, increased their focus, they feel less tired, they have less spots, lots of different types of issues. The issue with masturbation is it is a habit, and the more you do it, and there is a tendency for people, for negative habits to form around masturbation. Warren Buffett once said that the shackles of habits are too light to be felt in the youth, but too heavy to be broken in old age. It's worth doing everything within your power to try and avoid that negative habit.
Hey, what's up, Facebook family? How you doing? It's me, Terry Crews again. I just want to address some things real quick, man. The subject is dirty little secret. And, for years, my dirty little secret was that I was addicted to pornography for years. Now, most of you who are on Facebook are using the internet. And it's kind of crazy because this thing has become a problem. I think it's a worldwide problem. But pornography, it really messed up my life in a lot of ways. And you know, the thing is, it became a thing where I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody. It was a thing that it was my secret. Nobody knew. And that allowed it to grow. And it got bad. And when I say bad, some people deny. They say, hey, man, you know, you can't really be addicted to pornography. There's no way. But I'm going to tell you something. If day turns into night and you are still watching, you probably got a problem. And that was me. It affected everything. I didn't tell my wife, didn't tell my friends, nobody knew. But the internet allowed that little secret to just stay and grow. And it was something that, you know, my wife was literally like, I don't know you anymore. I'm out of here. And that changed me. I had to change because I realized, yo, this thing is a major, major problem. I literally had to go to rehab for it. And the thing what I found is that by not telling people, it becomes more powerful. But when you tell and when you put it out there in the open, just like I'm doing right now, to the whole world, it loses its power. And everybody wants you to keep this little secret. Don't tell anybody. Don't whisper in this and this. I'm telling. And I'm putting it out there. Let me tell you something. You know, I've been free of this thing probably going on 6-7 years now, thank goodness. But now it's become my battle to help other people who are going through the same thing. Now I know, again, you're on the internet. If you don't have this problem, it's okay. A lot of people don't. But there are a lot of people who can't stop. And I'm here to help you. You can talk to me. Now some of you may not agree. Please tell me what you think. But my issue was, and is with pornography, is that it changes the way you think about people. People become objects. People become, you know, body parts. They become things to be used rather than people to be loved. And it really, really, you know, you start to change the way you see people. And you start to use people. You start to feel like, you know, you're the man and they're just, you know, whatever. And I had to change my thinking. I had to change what I believed. And once I knew, and once I was aware of what it was doing to me, it changed me. And I knew, I said, I gotta stop this.
Try and avoid stimulus. So things that are going to potentially make it harder for you. And so examples of that might be watching certain films, watching certain things on TV, going on certain Instagram sites. And I would go as far as saying is the more time you can spend offline, I know that's very difficult for teenagers to do, but the more time you can just put your phone away and be around people, the less likely you are to go down that route where your mind takes you down a rabbit hole where you shouldn't be. Got 2 messages from people who are already in relationships, so this was an interesting topic for them because they wanted to know whether what they were doing is right or wrong, and the Sikh take on it. And obviously it's very difficult to pass judgment on somebody without knowing them or without knowing their circumstances, and each is going to be individual. But as a general rule, what I would advise is if you're in a relationship, whether it's intimate or not, I would advise that you get your parents involved and you keep them involved in what's happening between you. And that's going to be very important going forward, whether you get married or whether you decide you don't want to get married. Look, I'm just a normal guy sharing my experience. Am I right about everything I've said? No, definitely not. I'm just thinking, what would I want to tell my son growing up? And this is the honest truth speaking from my heart. I would want to tell him that it's very difficult for a male because they're going through such strong feelings. And there's a joke that if you are what you think, and if that was true, then men would become women because they're thinking about women all the time. So if you are one of those men, just know that it's completely normal. And it's just about channeling those emotions and that energy into as much positive stuff as you possibly can during those formative years. If you're not sure about any of the things we've talked about in this video, then feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help in any way that I can.